there's a little bit of a new wrinkle, a little bit of a development. But it was from a couple days ago when Donald Trump visited the UN to speak, and he wasn't very happy for multiple reasons. The main reason should have been because, he has to speak and embarrass us like this. But again, state TV was all over it.
Daddy's not happy. He came to the UN today, and it was a total mess. Everything was broken. The escalators weren't even working. Trump and Melania were riding it up, and it just stopped. The First Lady lost her balance a bit, but steadied herself, thankfully, and then marched to the top. She could have been hurt, and the president looked over at the press and knew something was up. At first, we thought the escalator just malfunctioned, but then so did the teleprompter.
As we go through this UN thing, I'm sure many of you guys heard about it, all the grievances that happened. This is the next step of this normalization of this grievance regime, this fascist regime that's in the White House right now. They want to make sure that every turn you take, every time you look up, every time you see something embarrassing happening with this president, even when it comes out of his own dumb face, that it's someone else's fault and that they are the victims. Never forget that. These liars are always the victims. And it starts with Jesse Waters talking about how his daddy is Trump. But then in order to really drive the point home, they have to get vicious. They have to get over the top. It's cartoonish, but at the same time, the fact that they've committed to it so much makes people begin to believe it.
It does appear to be sabotage with the escalator and the teleprompter. What is the White House going to do about that?
Well, Jesse, that's definitely what it appears to be to me. And that's why I put out a statement earlier. There was some concerning reporting over the weekend from the London Times, as you pointed out, that UN globalist staffers were basically plotting to set up the president of the United States. And first it was the escalator, then it was the teleprompter, and then Katie Pavlich from Town Hall, who we offered a seat in the press pool to cover the president's historic speech today, noticed that the audio inside of the room was much lower and different for the president of the United States than the previous speaker. So when you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me. And I know that we have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to trip up, literally trip up, the president and the first lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people. And I will personally see to it, Jesse.
Good.
These UN globalist staffers are trying to trip up the president. Don't forget the theme. This is the normalization of this grievance campaign. That's all they want you to do. First, I'll be afraid of them, then feel sorry for them. They're never the aggressor, even though look at all this aggression that they've got going. They're coming for people. The Secret Service is now coming to get them. Now, there's the aggression. Here's a little bit more of that, the victimhood that's happening.
President Trump says the Secret Service is investigating what he is calling triple sabotage after his time at the United Nations on Tuesday. The president wants answers after the escalator stopped as soon as he and the First Lady stepped on it. Look how great Melania was. She is unfazed. She walks on it. It stops. She turns around to the president, and she just leads the president up and walks. So she was unfazed by it. But this could have been a massive issue. And the president being frozen there in one place makes him vulnerable. Later the same morning, the teleprompter goes dark in the middle of his speeches. And then, in the middle of his address, rather. And then the president also said that the sound was off during his remarks, and only the people with interpreters speaking into earpieces could actually hear his address. The UN reports that they ordered a thorough investigation and are, quote, ready to cooperate in full transparency with relevant U.S. authorities. Congressman, do you know if we're going to get answers on this?
I surely hope so. And if the Secret Service has opened up an investigation and the UN's doing an investigation, obviously all of those things could not be a coincidence.
I know. Who cares, right? And on the surface of this, yes, who cares? He had to stop on the escalator for a second. In fact, the people that maybe couldn't have heard him during his speech were probably better off. He didn't get to embarrass himself in their ears either. They were like, well, I didn't hear the stupid shit that he's saying. Maybe he said something smart this time. In fact, it probably was like a favor being done to him for no one to hear him speaking, if even that happened. But can we revisit one more time when Barack Obama was in office? Remember the teleprompter talk? Remember they kept saying teleprompters, teleprompters, teleprompters. What kind of president uses teleprompters? If he uses teleprompters, he must not be very bright. He can't think and say anything from his speeches. But this guy's been complaining about teleprompters since he was campaigning in 2016 about teleprompters and teleprompters. If this trash teleprompter keeps acting up, I'm going to fire everybody here. Now he's mad at the UN because his teleprompter broke. Because apparently he doesn't have the brain power to come up with his own speeches and say things off the top of his head that make any damn sense, aside of all those lies that he tells on a regular basis. But let's let Greg Stoob finish, because they go over the top with how bad everything was. You know what? Things like this would normally, like back in the day, if the escalator stops and a president is at the UN, people would laugh at him. A late night TV show would crack a couple jokes, and no one would give a damn. But this administration's main purpose is to keep you distracted and thinking about how horrible it was that a f***ing escalator stopped. While you're paying too much for all of your goods, while you're losing your job, while he's continuing to pursue more and more wars, while we're funding a genocide in Palestine, while all these things are happening, while he's covering up big investigations like the Epstein files, while all these things are happening, they want you to think about an escalator and how aggrieved he was.
Thankfully, the First Lady and the President had their hands on the rail as they were going up the escalator, or you likely would have fallen down and injured themselves. It seems to be intentional. Let's hope it wasn't. But it seems to be that was the case. Look, nothing's worked at the UN. I don't know why we're still part of the UN. The President has been able to do the job of the UN since he's been president in negotiating all of these peace deals.
Unbelievable.
An escalator stopped, and we should no longer be a part of the UN. It's cartoonish. Every time he steps out in public, people should ridicule Greg Stoob. People should say, should we leave the UN? Oh, I tripped over the concrete. Should we leave the UN? God, this is childlike behavior. Let's keep it real. This is childlike behavior. And I'm not going to read it, I promise, but it all comes from the top. The same guy who had to stop for 2.5 to 3 seconds at an escalator wrote this long ass post and posted it because he had to stop for a second. And then, of course, because of all of his sycophants who are afraid of his old decrepit ass, for some reason, then they have to follow along and do the same thing, because we're a country being run by cowardly people that have nothing to offer us, that want to keep you distracted while they rob you. It's a party full of criminals and corrupt individuals. It's what their job is now. And the people at Fox News who keep talking about all this stuff as if it's this important, it's their job to keep you distracted too. Because if they don't, they're fired, they're excommunicated from the church of Donald Trump, and then their meal ticket goes away. So while we're talking about how things have gotten so charged in this country, I want to remind you, this is based off a teleprompter and an escalator. And Jesse Waters said this.
What's going on with the escalator? What do you think?
Yeah, they sabotaged them.
Yeah.
And they could have hurt the First Lady.
Yeah.
Trump would have fallen and it would have gotten back up. But,
they would have blamed it on his rhetoric.
And then they sabotaged the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an insurrection. And what we need to do is either leave the UN or we need to bomb it. It is in New York, though, right?
Yeah,
there could be some fallout there.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just joking. Kind of like how maybe Brian Kilmeade was joking when he said we should just kill all homeless folks. And then someone got to shooting up homeless encampments. It's just a joke until people die. It's just a joke from Jesse Waters. That is, until someone says, yeah, maybe we should bomb it. But boo-hoo from anyone making jokes about, the guy that they're using as a catalyst for their authoritarianism and trying to implement more laws to take away people's rights. Boo-hoo. But let's bomb the UN from Jesse Waters. State TV is dangerous because people watch it and they buy all of that, and then they carry out those actions. And this actually stood out to me. I don't know why it did, but it stood out to me. Lindsey Graham, because his job is also to back up Donald Trump at every turn.
This guy's a cross between P.T. Barnum and Ronald Reagan. He's in everybody's head. God bless you, President Trump, for standing up in the UN and telling the world the way it is. We don't have to live this way. We don't have to live with a Europe that's buying Russian oil at the time we're all trying to stop the war with Russia and Ukraine. So I hope he runs again.
Donald Trump's a mix between P.T. Barnum and Ronald Reagan. P.T. Barnum was like the circus guy. This president is running a circus, a fascist circus. As a matter of fact, I want him to violate more of our Constitution and run for a third term. This guy's going to be 95 years old. So whatever. But he's P.T. Barnum. How can I come up with something better to say? What else can I come up with? Because apparently Trump's in everyone's head. There's a whole different problem with Trump being in Lindsey Graham's head all the time.